The individuals who are going to face John Dramani Mahama, the rest of the candidates to be elected by the other political parties, including the PNC, CPP, etc. And now we have the numbers accruing for the NPP. That ultimately will give us indication that there will be a super delegate election that will prune the number down. And there's a certain history to that. So we want to discuss that on the show. And then we also do encourage you to send us your messages as well. Now, what it does mean that we'll delve into Asin North, because a number of our individuals here have been to Asin North and back, particularly one of our leading guests, great guy, I have to admit. And let me just do the introduction. I have a former chair for the PNC right here, and Bernard Mona is a regular on the show. Bernard Mona, good morning to you.
Morning.
Great. Kofi Tonto has also been to Asin North. Yeah, I saw him in a couple of videos where he'd been showing in those pieces works that have been done by government. And I'm sure he wants to dispel any notion that government was just doing more work on the projects because there was a by-election. Kofi Tonto, good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, brother.
How are you?
Very well, very well.
Great.
Yeah.
And then let me just also run this by you. Who no like chop money? Indeed, all of us do. So Dewa 539 chop money is here. And early this morning, we're asking you to be very cheerful, because all you need to do is to collect your chop money every morning at 8:30 a.m. by simply dialing *446#. So all you need to do also is to select the option to play Dewa 539 chop money. Win 20 times your stake with direct 1, 40 times your stake with direct 2, 400 times your stake with direct 3. And you can also, as we do it as far as lotteries are concerned, perm your numbers or bets on all 5 numbers just to win big. You pick from the numbers, and I tell you the numbers from 1 to 39. And it just gives you an easy win. Very easy for you to win. So win every day with Dewa 539. It is the only lottery that offers you the best chances of winning. Collect your chop money every morning into your mobile wallet. Dial *446# or visit dewa-nla.com to play Dewa 539 chop money. Dewa, afa. I have to thank NLA for this. Now, for all of you joining us on our stream, we're grateful for you. So when you join the stream, we have a number of our great friends, great ardent viewers who tend to join us this morning. Let me just say good morning to a couple of them as well. So I have already joining us, Ransford Gisa joining us this morning, Sly, Damba, Hamza, Maestro. Thank you for joining us. Emmanuel Ampoma, Shaida, Shaddai Adote, Ms. Adote, good morning. And then, of course, my regular Bisnab Asimiga Kisting, good morning to you. And then Ras Kotokap, Carl Edward, and all of you joining us. I hope to have more. Fred too have done it. And Money, as well as Imelda, all of you have joined. Amma McGold and William Beche, thank you very much. Now, let's bring you a string of soundbites, and it's from individuals who have submitted their nominations for the NPP presidential race. And then we'll climax it with John Dramani Mahama, who is also doing some campaign in Asin North. Then when we come back, we'll look at these candidates, and of course, we know the top ones, and Kofi Tonto will lead us to who the top ones are. And then we'll talk about how they're also going to face off with John Dramani Mahama as the main candidate in the leading opposition side. These are the insets.
I want to see a Ghana where we leverage technology, data, and systems for inclusive economic growth. I want to make Ghana the digital hub of Africa. I want us to bridge the digital divide and apply digital technology and artificial intelligence for the transformation of healthcare, education, and public service delivery, amongst others. And that is why I am offering myself in all humility to contest in the primaries of this phenomenal party, the great new patriotic party, to become our flag bearer and presidential candidate for 2024. And inshallah, the President of the Republic of Ghana.
Many are those, however, who have questioned the long service of the Vice President.
Here, that everybody who has come here, including representatives of farmers, are here on their own accord. You can't see any bus or any big commercial vehicle bringing in people to come and support. People have come on their own volition and of their very tight conviction. The same way I was able to bring agriculture to the front line of policy discussion, it will be the same way that agriculture will be used to take us out of the clutches of the island.
Then came
Nana no hwɛ amanihu a abrante afa mu menim sɛ Ghana ha yɛ bie kwan ne yɛka sɛ nipa ɛpɛ sɛ ɔmokɔ Canada ɔmbɛkyerɛ ɔmu din ɛm sɛ anhwɛ yi a yɛman no yɛnyɛ nipa ɛnyɛ adwuma wɔ ha bio na papa yi ɔbɔ ne bra ɛwɔ Canada many years na ne bɔne a wayɛ ne sɛ ɔsɛ meba fie abesom aye adwuma ma me man na ma ne hu nyinaa no enne enye se amanyosem aba ye court nsem a ankasa asemi enye ade a medwen se ewo se ne aba no eba ne amesre ase nofo ene se amane hu a menua kwesi na fam no obre a wabre ene aforebo a wabo ama ase nofo me ama na nye kwa na ene Ghana fo nyina edi omani aba ase nof efise mo na mo be kasa ama Ghana fo e wo se ye kire aban ne se nya mo bu oman no enye ne kwan so a enti o se ye twe omo aso kakra enti so mo.
So John Dramani Mahama is in the trenches as well in Asinov. And then just back from Asinov, I told you Kofi Tonto. Seated beside him is Edem Agbana, the parliamentary candidate for Katu North. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Roland. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Kofi Tonto. Yeah. So now it looks like it will be DMB 2024 or Alan Tremanting or any other outsider against John Dramani Mahama, and the other candidates that Mr. Bernard Mona's party, etc., will come up with. Yeah. What do you say to that?
Well, again, let me say a very good morning to you and to my colleagues here. Fortunately, in the NPP, we have men who have presented themselves to lead the political party. These are men who have endeavored in many, in varied ways to support the agenda of the party. If you take someone like the Honorable Alan Kojo-Chermatin, he's done tremendous work for the NPP. He's been a Minister of Trade 2 times and then also an ambassador to the United States. I've had the privilege to even travel with him to Côte d'Ivoire for AGOA, and then on an occasion where he came to the United States for the United UN General Assembly, I had the privilege of engaging him every morning because we stayed in the same hotel. Fantastic gentleman. When you take somebody like Akompreko Kennedy, he's done well for the party. He's contributed immensely to the growth of the party. Somebody like Kwabena Japan, he was actually a general secretary of the party, knows the party very well and our history. And all the other people, they've contributed immensely and are capable of leading this party. The same as His Excellency, the Vice President, who has equally endeavored in many ways to the glory of this party. He served in different capacities, dating all the way back to President Kufuor's time. A lot of people don't know that His Excellency contributed to Ghana going to HIPIC when it comes to the technical committee that President Kufuor formed. He was a key member of it. When it comes to a redenomination of the currency, he was a key member of it, and etc. So his contribution dates way back to President Kufuor's time, and then also becoming a vice presidential candidate 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, and then a vice president 2020, 2017, and then 2020. So he has also contributed immensely to the party. So all of them are in a very good position to contest, to lead. I think the question therefore becomes, who is best suited for the fight or the battle ahead of us? And many of us feel that the vice president is the right person to lead. Nevertheless, I think we need to create the space for all persons to express themselves diligently, fairly, so that the people, the delegates, will elect whoever they feel is the right person for us. There shouldn't be any sentiment where individuals feel that the system or the process is skewed against them. We must create an environment where it's free and fair. The system is same equal platform for everybody. And I believe very strongly in the leadership of our party, the chairman in team, our general secretary, Justin Kodua. They have so far exhibited great sense of leadership, fairness in their operations and in their dealings. So I am very certain that by November 4th, the party will have a leader, and then and it will be done in a very honest and a free manner. So we wish all of them the best, and we hope that everything goes well for them. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to that, there have been some controversial issues that have been raised. So, particularly for the insert that we played, the minister or former minister for agriculture does say that DMB, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia's campaign, did bus people, and quite succinctly also insinuates. And then he goes on to say that busing of people creates unfairness.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think His Excellency the Vice President deliberately bused people to the place. Now, assuming that he bused people to the place, there are party people. Roland, you are sitting here. If someone wants to bus you to an event where you are not comfortable with, to pursue an agenda that you don't believe in, would you go? If somebody says that...
Am I supposed to answer that?
No, I mean, it can be a rhetorical question.
I think it's a rhetoric.
But the question, therefore, is, if somebody comes to me and says that, Kofi, I want to bus you to an event, I want to ask what the event is, what the agenda is, who the person leading the agenda is. If I don't believe in that agenda, will I go? So let's credit people with some degree of, some modicum of...
You're saying that there has to be some level of agreement,
there has to be
some synergy with the
some
objective.
Some degree of affinity. Somebody has to approve of what they are doing before they do it. I mean, for example, former President Mahama went to an election. He gave each delegate 40 cedis for transportation. Now, are you saying that the delegates wouldn't have gone to vote for him? Or the delegates went to vote for him because of 40 cedis? No. They believed in the candidate. So providing transportation for them was perhaps...
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's neither here nor there.
Okay.
Now, if it's a case of busing people, why didn't he bus people? No, if it's as simple as busing people, why didn't other people bus people? He could have also bused people.
That's all.
No, my point is, if his argument is you can simply bus people to an event and it doesn't take the person believing in you, believing in the cause, he could have equally bused thousands of people to the venue. So he should know that it goes beyond busing people or aiding people in transportation. People have to believe in the cause. And I am certain that people who went there believed in the cause. I was there. I believe in the cause, and that's why I went there.
I went to the party office as well.
Yeah, I went there to support. So I don't think that's a fair assessment of anything.
Now, give me the instance of Alan Chemanti. Now, so there's also a concern that has been raised by some key individuals, including some individuals I know in the Chemanti camp, who say that the vice president seemed to be abusing his office. Let us get an insight, and I will come.
I would say politics, you know. Say, oh yeah, politics are. And so what you say, yes, can go on here, so skaka one here, and I'm a boy. Me fa mensa enkobo abai musika say me de be politics. Anuti, Anna, me ka say, Samania Brise, me president DDR, for you to ho. Now I copy Usika, now for your politics.
Implying that the vice president is abusing his office.
Well,
he feels disadvantaged, Alan Chemanti.
well, first of all, let's do a very cursory analysis. Okay. President Kufuor went for 2 elections. Is that correct? He was a president and then he went for re-election. The Honorable Alan Chemanti was a minister in that government. When President Kufuor was contesting to be re-elected, did anyone say that President Kufuor should put his job somewhere and pursue his presidential ambition?
Are you implying that President Kufuor was then vice president?
No, I am saying that President Kufuor was in an elected position just as the vice president. The vice president and the president were elected. Nobody told President Kufuor to put his position down. The Honorable Alan Chemanti making this comment was part of that government. President John Mahama also went for an election.
Whilst president.
Whilst president. Nobody said he should put his position down. President Akufo-Addo was a president. The Honorable Alan Chemanti didn't tell President Akufo-Addo to put his position down as he seek re-election. Why? Because these are individuals who have been elected by the people to do a job. First and foremost, the vice president is not and will never use state resources to pay people to vote for him. He will never do such a thing. The vice president will not pursue any agenda that deliberately utilizes state resources. No. But he is the vice president. And as a people, he, quote unquote, the property of the state. So, by virtue of the position he's in, the state has to offer some assistance to him. For example, his health. For example, his security. Are we to say that when the vice president is on a campaign trail, we should pull back all his security apparatus and send private security? What needs to happen is that there ought to be a deliberate policy by the individual to ensure that you do not abuse state resources. What are some examples? The vice president is going on a campaign tour on a bus. Do you know that? Do you know that?
Which of the bus? Every time?
Every
he did
time.
some demonstration.
No. He started his campaign in the Greater Accra region last Friday. And he's visited 10 or so constituencies already. He's going to visit all 275 constituencies.
He's visited 10 constituencies in Accra.
Already.
Because we have in excess over 25 or 29 or something.
Yeah, he's visited 10 already.
Yeah.
He's doing about 3 or so a day.
Wow.
And he's going to do all...
In a bus?
In a bus.
This is historical.
That's the point. And this is a bus that someone donated to support the campaign. So he is making a deliberate effort to say that, yes, by virtue of my position, the state ought to take care of me in some instances. Nevertheless, I am going to make an effort not to abuse state resources. He could have gone in several V8s as required by his movement, protocol system. But he said no. Just a few police officers on a bus. So I think that we need to eschew these things. The man is a vice president. And he cannot resign as a vice president. There isn't any convention in our history or that of the world where an elected vice president or a president has to resign to seek re-election. Even in advanced countries, President Biden is seeking re-election. As I speak to you, President Biden is traversing the entire United States.
In a bus?
No, he is actually on Air Force One. Anytime the Air Force One moves, for every 1 hour, it's $1 million. It's at the cost of the state.
Yeah, true.
You know, but of course, he has his campaign financing procedures that he has to follow and all of that. But the point I'm saying is that once he's a president, expenditure, some protection of the state will come in.
Because he becomes a statesman beyond
exactly. So
elected to execute a certain responsibility.
Exactly. So he just have to be very careful, and the vice president is doing just that.
And if you look at Mr. Benabuna, all the things that are going on, you get to find that it looks like the campaign of the vice president is shaking the ground. Gaiji is a great friend of mine. It's with with the Ken team. That's Kenny Japonti. They'll be filing tomorrow, and they are not going with all the razzmatazz, etc. But it could be possible that John Dramani Mahama of the NDC and then the other candidates are in awe of how penetratively the strategy of the vice president has become in getting elected as the flag bearer of the NPP. What do you say to that?
First, let me send my commiserations to the family of our Bono Regional Women's Organizer, who I'm told passed on a few days ago. Rokaya was such a dedicated member of our party. She had committed her all. She worked from her early ages until eventually she became the women's organizer of our Bono region. It was shocking to me that such a lovely lady was dead. And I'm told that she went on a visit up north and just died somehow. The party is in mourning, and I wish the family strength in these difficult times. Certainly, on our part, when everything is settled and the funeral date is put, we shall be there to give her the appropriate final wishes to her maker, and of course, I pray that she becomes a worthy ancestor. Having said that, if I were a professor called John Evans Atta-Mills, I would have said Zeufiatem. Unfortunately, what happens in any political party has a major telling on all of us. If you sit down and concern about the happenings of the New Patriotic Party, and they elect a misfit, that misfit will appoint misfit persons. And at the end of the day, the economy will suffer the way we are suffering today. And so it is important that all of us put an eye on who becomes the leader of the New Patriotic Party, so that probably our voices can add up in making sure that they select the best. See, we are in terrible times, very terrible times. The economy is simply non-existent. And yesterday, again, President Akufo-Addo took opportunity to lament, to lambast, and to lampoon rating agencies and blame Russia, Ukraine, and COVID-19 for the economic nemesis that we are faced with. Certainly, this is a president that is living in a different world, because he failed to blame his own reckless economic policies and policy decisions that have landed our nation where we are. And so when you have a government that is failing to look at the immediate causes, the homegrown causes that put us in the kind of difficulty that we have. If we did not run our economy that low, the rating agencies will not be emboldened to run us or to rate us the way they have, or to run rough on us. And so I find it a bit strange that you have a president who simply says that, look, don't blame me for anything, just blame other people, other institutions, other agencies for the mess that we have. We cannot continue to live like that. Those who fail to admit their failure simply are catastrophic in their nature. In this time, and that is why I believe strongly that Kwabena Agyapong has been very clear in his thoughts that, look, those who contributed to the mess that we find ourselves in cannot suddenly become angels and say that vote for us because we will come and salvage the situation.
I don't understand you, because the vice president said he has a plan. He has a whole digitalized plan, and that he was not his own man, or perhaps he's playing subserviency to the president. And to me, I believe he's a vice president.
I think that is to say that he is jettisoning President Akufo-Addo and saying that President Akufo-Addo, the failure we are engaging today is blamable only on you. I am not part of it. And so President Akufo-Addo and his team should watch out that even before the vice president can be elected, he says that all the failings of this government, I am not. I have my own plan. And if I am allowed, my plan will not be what we are witnessing. And I think that is a damning report. It's no different from Alan Chirimantin saying that we are running a NATO. No action, talk only. So similarly, the vice president just fell short of that. But by the way he put it, I have my own vision for Ghana. I have my own plan. Simply says that, look, the plan that is being run, I am not part of it. Don't blame the economic hiatus on me. Just simply know that it is President Akufo-Addo. And I think that, look, you cannot be an assistant and suddenly turn around to say that, look, you are not part of the teamwork. This is teamwork. This is teamwork. The mess that we are in is a collective responsibility of the government of Akufo-Addo, that the vice president is number 2. President Akufo-Addo is going to Spain today. Who is the next in command? Who is the next in command? The vice president. So how could the vice president somersault and say that, no, I'm not part of the difficulties that we are having? So I believe sincerely that, look, the pronouncement of Kwabena Agyapong, for instance, that, look, those who are part of the mess cannot be the solution. And so jettison them and bring in a new trait. But obviously, the other argument that I listened to Kofi Tonto, in 2004, President Kufuor was not contested by anybody in the party. President Kufuor went unopposed.
What has that got to do with it?
Because you stated that you stated, and that's why I'm mentioning it, that President Kufuor ran elections and nobody said that he abused state resources for his internal party contestation. President Kufuor went unopposed, and therefore there was no contest whatsoever.
But I remember that time
just the same way.
Thank you, talk.
Just the same way Akufo-Addo went unopposed.
I'll respond to that.
Do you understand? I didn't mention that, so you can respond to yourself.
I'm saying I'll respond
So
to you.
respond to yourself, not to me.
Oh, but you are responding
Please,
to me.
Kofi Tonto, be gentle. When you were keep talking, I was quiet.
Please go ahead.
When I had nothing to do, I took a newspaper to read. If you don't have, I'll let them share some with you. So obviously, there was no contest for President Kufuor so as for us to see that he was abusing incumbency. In any case, we are talking about the pronouncements of the other contenders, right? Who see that the vice president office is using every tactic at their disposal to use state resources, either covert or overt, to his advantage. CEOs, DCEs, ministers, and all those people are following the vice president. They have no job to do any longer.
I don't understand. Well, it's out of volition.
I'm saying they have no job to do. They are supposed to work for state. And so let's allow those who want to campaign to go on their campaign. For them to abandon their official jobs and to join on the wagon, and majority of them, if you listen, it's funny that everybody thinks that they have been promised vice presidential role by the vice president and that the vice president will appoint them. And so if you count the number of people that have that mentality, from CEOs to ministers to deputy ministers and to some MPs. You will be amazed.
You mean you've talked to individuals who say that the vice president, if he becomes presidential candidate, will make them a vice president?
Vice president. That's their vice presidential candidate. I think that the NPP has a Herculean task. As somebody has said, there is a dilemma in which direction the elephant will go this time. Whether the elephant will move to the direction of the north, or it will remain in the south, or it will go to the center, or it will go to any path. And I think that so far I have counted about 12 people that picked up nominations. And if all of them are to submit, there is a Herculean task for the party. There is also a beginning to why there is the Superdelegates Conference. In 2007, when President Kufuor was about exiting office, there were the 17 plus 1, or 18 minus 1, if you want to call it so, because in Krabbe that was not allowed to contest. And then, of course, he wept. But the 17 people, according to the NPP, was too overwhelming. And they thought that they should prune down the numbers through a certain decision, which is a decision of their constitution, that they decided as a party that no, the numbers that we see are too much. But I would think that, look, sometimes we take decisions, maybe. Why would you think that a certain group of privileged persons will go and determine whether I am popular within the rank and file?
You think that is wrong? It's a constitutional
That's what I'm saying, that
was put before.
It was a constitutional amendment, but I'm just telling you my view. That why is it that a certain group of people, I may not be popular within the super delegates, but I could have actually been popular within the general delegates. And so super delegates can go and choose people. Can you imagine that the super delegates go and then they don't choose Bawumia?
Oh, how? That's unthinkable.
Can you imagine that the super delegates go and they don't choose Alan Chiremanteng? They don't choose Kobinaji. They don't choose Dr. Afriye Akoto.
And who would they choose?
I'm saying, so that just imagine that they don't choose Kennedy Agyapong.
The popular ones.
Yes, because you have a list of about 5 people to choose. You understand?
That would be their choice.
Can I make my point, young man?
You live in a
Can I make my point?
Okay, please.
Thank you. So in that direction, then the superdelegates could have actually incurred the displeasure and dishonor of the generality of the candidates. And I'm saying that sometimes some of these decisions we take as a result of a one occurrence, which one occurrence was in the 2007 Congress. After that, we decided that, look, let's have a superdelegates Congress. That may not be. Because, look, I would think that some of the candidates may be popular. Adai Nimo has been a serious contender for the New Patriotic Party flag bearership. I know that Joe Gate has been there for a couple of times. Kofi Konedu Aperoku has been there from time immemorial. And so you cannot say. In fact, Kobinaji Agyapong contested in the 2007 flag bearership. And so if you want to look at people who have shown mettle, those who have been serious contenders alone are getting close to 5 or more. And I think that it becomes a big challenge that you may, at the end of the day, take a decision that may also impact negatively on the party. I am praying and hoping that in the 30 years of our 4th Republican Constitution, we have had the NPP and the NDC run this country to the lowest. It is a race to the bottom. It is time to change. And we should look favorably to the PNC-CPP so that in 2024, we don't have this difficulty of always having to yank from the bad to the west or to the west to the bad.
Adam, you look at the gentleman, you look at the crowd that followed DMB 2024, it is possible. And you look at the impact being made by Alan Chiremanteng. And then also, you look at the message of Kennedy Agyapong. John Dramani Mahama of the NDC should be shaking his shoes.
That's supposed to be a joke, I believe. Well, Roland, good morning to you and to my brothers this morning, and also to all our viewers, especially to the good people of Ketu North. I'm happy to be back on air this morning. Roland, I'm keenly monitoring the NPP presidential primaries. And so far, I've heard about 9 or 10 names and seen some big, very huge billboards in town displaying some of the candidates. And I must say that we wish the NPP well in their internal primaries. But we've raised some very key issues. One, before I even answer your question, Kofi tried to speak about whether or not the vice president is abusing his office, and that is linked to the statement made by the Honorable Alan Chairmanten, who, according to him, chose to resign because he didn't want to abuse office and all of that. But clearly, when you look at the NPP Constitution, Article 13.6, it is stated that as a minister, deputy minister, MMDC, and a national officer, when you decide to pick form to contest the presidential primaries, you are expected to resign. That provision doesn't cover the president or the vice president, and so I'm sure the decision to resign or to let go of the ministerial positions and national officers' positions is a constitutional mandate, and so as for that one, I don't think that is too much of a big issue. However, Alan raised a very important issue about the abuse of office, and it's also linked to what my senior comrade Bernard Mona just said about ministers following the vice president and have decided to abandon their key role, especially at this very difficult time where the economy is in a mess, where we are finding it difficult as a country to really even see the proper direction for the country. You see that the entire government has been thrown into a state of campaign. And I will give you very key examples. One, I found it very interesting that when Alan was going to file his nominations, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Abena, was part of his campaign team. Now you have an economic management team chaired by the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. The Deputy Minister of Finance, her position on who leads Ghana or who leads the NPP into the next election is a verdict on the leadership of the gentleman contesting.
That's your interpretation.
But that is supposed to be, because if I choose to support President Mahama in my internal primaries, it is because I have confidence in his ability to provide the leadership that Ghana needs. And so if you have a Deputy Minister of Finance who is supposed to be working under the leadership of the Vice President who chairs the economic management team, taking or supporting a different candidate other than the Vice President, I believe, from my personal view, I think that it raises concerns about the capacity or the performance of the Vice President, because we have a local adage that when the crocodile comes out of the water to tell you that, say, the tilapia is dead, you have every reason to believe it because the crocodile is from the water. So I found that to be very interesting about the Deputy Finance Minister's decision not to support Dr. Baumia, but Alan Chairmanten. Again, I have followed Alan's campaign as well, and he's raised these issues of abuse of office. I think that
he insinuates about money
and all of that. Well, to be fair, in every contest, people it's always easy to accuse the incumbent of taking advantage of the office, to abuse office and all that, incumbency advantage and all of that. It usually happens. In 2016, for example, even when President Mahama and the NDC ran the very modest campaign, even when President Mahama never used any state institution or state resources in his campaign, the NPP was shouting all over the place about abusing office. And today, the very things they accuse the NDC of doing, they are doing those things in multiple folds. And let me say, look, this whole idea of Dr. Bawumia goes to campaign in a bus and what have you and all of that. I see the convoy. We all see the convoy around.
But he's in a bus.
No, but you see, it doesn't matter if he as an individual. I haven't seen him in the bus. But I'm saying that it doesn't even matter if he as an individual decides to sit in a bus just for the optics. It's also more about how many cars are following this bus. How many V8s? Okay. So when we started the show, and Kofi was talking, I got a message from a friend from the Western region who says when they came for the funeral of the late dad of the Kwesimington MP, I think his name is Honorable Prince also, that so many V8s, then along the way, the change occurred, the vice president started the bus just for the optics. I can't confirm that. But the most important thing is that if you want to run a very modest campaign, a less costly campaign, and you want to use the bus, that must be seen truly and truly, not just with the vice president himself sitting in a bus.
You're saying it should run through?
It should run through. Kennedy Japan was in my constituency 2 weeks ago.
He was?
He was to campaign. And the number of cars, the number of vehicles that followed him, that were in his convoy, clearly many buses. At the time we are talking about running a modest campaign, the president still goes to events with 40 or more V8s in his convoy. And so we can't be blowing hot and cold. If it is the belief of Dr. Bawumia that indeed we are in such a difficult time and government must be seen to be running on a very lean budget, that must reflect even in the way the president himself acts. So it's not just about Dr. Bawumia alone sitting in a bus. Let's say it is commendable to see a vice president sit in a bus to campaign. But it must be replicated. Let it be seen that truly the NPP government believes that we must run a very modest campaign, that is not just doing it for the optics. That must be clearly communicated. Then again, you have this issue of their Article 13.9, which makes provision for a special electoral college to decide which five people to prune down the numbers. I agree with Comrade Bernard Mona when he says that it may not be a fair representation of, it doesn't augur well for democracy.
Voter delegates.
Yeah, because we know that some of the candidates in this contest are clearly the candidates for the establishment. For example, Dr. Bawumia is an establishment candidate. We know.
I don't know.
When I say an establishment candidate, it is President Akufo-Addo. By this and what it is President Akufo-Addo's desire, wish to see Dr. Bawumia succeed him as president. It is, you can see that how all over the place, ministers of state, almost every MMDC. I will be very surprised. I will be very, very surprised if Dr. Bawumia doesn't win this internal primaries, because all over the place, almost every government appointee, almost everybody close to the president are all supporting Dr. Bawumia. And so clearly, the system is for Dr. Bawumia.
You mean if he doesn't win the super delegate?
It's not just a super delegate. And I'm saying that, even in the general, the primaries itself, the proper primaries. So now,
the general primaries.
So I'm asking questions. So imagine, when you look at the composition of these special delegates, when you look at the composition, it is possible that a candidate who is a good standing member of the NPP, but very critical of the government, very critical of the NPP as a party, may not get the go-ahead, may not get the support. Why? Because the composition clearly, and I can read out the composition. We have national officers, we have ministers of state, we have all members of parliament of the NPP, we have council of elders, and all of that. Now, when you take all of this, imagine you have a good standing member of the NPP who is very, very critical of the NPP administration, who is critical of President Akufo-Addo, who is critical of how Chairman Intim is running the party. You don't expect such a person to pass through that stage or getting the nod among the five. Now, how fair is that? And it's not very democratic. I think that that's how it was in the past, where in 2007, we saw 17 people going to the delegates to be elected, it should be possible for everyone.
So you should see those large numbers.
To have, yes, because if what is the criteria that this special delegates Congress, what criteria would they use in putting down the number? If it's about performance, if it's about credibility, if it's about somebody who is really a candidate that can inspire hope and all of that, I'm sure that some of the leading contenders may not make it. But we know that all these 8 or 9 or 10 people who are going, the people who will make it out of the 5.
12. Why are you saying?
I know of only 10. Even this morning on my way, I saw one that really looks like President Akufo-Addo. Nana Odene. Is it related to the president?
No.
But there's some resemblance of a sort, physically.
He has come to say that it's not the resemblance that is making you to contest.
Okay. I didn't even know.
They do
Until
have
this morning, I think I spent so much time in Ketuno that I didn't
saw
know
the billboard?
I saw the billboard just at the Kaukudi Junction here. And I was like, he's also part of the race. It looks so much like the president.
For you?
so I know of only 9 or 10. Maybe there are more and all of that. But Roland, to conclude, for us in the NDC, we are ever ready for whoever will emerge out of this contest. I don't think that any of these men who have picked form is capable of beating President Mahama. Ghanaians know the kind of leader that they want for the next 4 years. Ghanaians are very much aware of the mess caused by President Akufo-Addo and all these men. All these men are part of the mess. You can't take any of them out. Alan was a cabinet minister, Dr. Akoto, and all of that. So I don't see what it is that any of these men possess, what quality it is that when we go to Ghanaians in 2024 to campaign, should be shaking that this. None of them can beat President Mahama. That is not in doubt.